call equipment. He tells you what he wants to do.
We promise to grow the economy of Enugu State from the current levels to an exponential level. We met on ground a GDP size of $4.4 billion. We promised you in the next 4 to 8 years to grow that GDP to 30 billion. We also said to you that we're on a mission to make Enugu State the preferred destination for investment, living, tourism, and business. So, and of course, we also recognize that those promises, if we went by the trends and the growth pattern we've had over the years, it would almost be impossible to accomplish that. If you had an economy that had grown largely at 3 to 4% rate, and you're coming in to say you're going to grow the same economy at over 100% rate, it must mean that you must be able to show the things you're going to do differently, which was why we said we're going to deploy disruptive innovation in executing the programs and projects we have expressed to you. We said to you that if we're going to grow this economy to the size we've promised you, that a lot of it will be driven by private sector, but it's going to be enabled by government. So government will have to provide the environment for the private sector to thrive, which was why as soon as we came in, we recognized and identified the challenges of security as the biggest elephant we had in the room. And we knew it was imperative we address that. Recall that we made very consequential pronouncements and we had to mobilize the security agencies who worked with us, indeed toiled day and night, worked tirelessly for us to have the state of security that we have today in Enugu. Of course, our job is far from done. We recognize that we're still dealing with some breaches here and there. But we've also gone on to put in place measures that allow us to ensure we identify, track, capture, and defeat the criminals. We recognize that there are still some challenges with making sure that the water gets to the last mile at the downstream side of things. We're working on it. And there were things that we couldn't have reasonably foreseen when we made this commitment and when we made those promises, in terms of making sure that once you turn your tap and you're here in Enugu Metropolis, water will be running. We recognize that there were challenges, so we have 3 levels of the downstream. We have the primary and the secondary lines, and we have the tertiary lines, which is essentially the distribution line. The survey we did had revealed that we were okay with the primary and the secondary lines, and we needed to deal with the tertiary lines, which is from the various headers to the various homes. And we did that. Again, when the valves were turned on, it became obvious to us that we still had to deal with the challenges of the water pipes on the primary and the secondary lines. It was so bad that in some cases, even when you thought the lines had been done, we only found out after we had opened the ground that there were some gaps even in the pipeline. So you have a pipeline that gets to the point and is blind flashed, and then you have pipes continuing from another spot. So there were challenges. But that is essentially what you have elected us to do, to deal with those challenges. So we are facing them frontally. And the way we've seen the challenges in the water sector, we're treating it like a martial law now. We've declared a state of emergency there, as you know. So we're working day and night to make sure that we get that water to the last mile in all the households here in Enugu Metropolis. Of course, we had a number of industries. You know, Enugu had played very consequential roles in the history of this country, and it was at one point the economic hub of this country. And we had quite a number of industries, and we are currently working on activating those industries. You may have noticed that there's work currently going on the International Conference Center. In a few months, the conference center will become functional. And these whole things are deliberate. When you see the work we're doing, whether in the different segment of infrastructure, whether it's road, electricity, water, transportation, we are looking at helping these businesses that we are inviting to come and invest here in Enugu, not only to provide them the environment, but to help them de-risk some of the things that would make it impossible for them to come. So if we're looking at people who want to come here and set up their business, and we know that we have to make transportation easy for them, whether by flight or road, we get involved. So which is why we are working currently with the Federal Ministry of Aviation to operationalize the international wing of our airport. So we're expecting very soon to have not just the international wing of the airport working or functional, but we're also expecting to have the cargo terminal, which is something we're working with other private sectors. So the sort of things we're doing in the road sector, I'm sure you will also be wondering where we're finding that money, and I'll come back to that later. Because recall we said that we're going to do 1,250 kilometers of road every year, which means we're going to do 10,000 kilometers of road over the 4 to 8 years that we're going to serve you. That's if you renew our mandate. So what we're currently doing in the road is also deliberate. Our objective is to make sure that all the roads in Enugu City, all the roads are paved. We will not take any road, we will not accept that there will be a road in our metropolis that is not paved. So So we're currently working on 81 of those roads in the city, and we're also currently working about 10 roads in our rural areas. But again, our objective is to make sure that we have a road project going on across all the wards. So I have instructed my team to make sure they scope all the roads that we're going to identify a road project in each ward. Our objective is to make sure that we achieve a minimum of 10 kilometers of road in each ward. So between now and the end of next year, we're going to be having a minimum of 2,600 kilometers of road constructed, which is consistent with our promise. Again, in the area, I'm sure this again, I'm just going to try to keep this on the high level, so I'll allow you time to ask questions. Because of course, if you allow us to go on to talk about the different sectors we have intervened, I'm not sure 3 hours will be enough for me to talk about them. But something that is quite profound, and once I mention them, I will cede the floor for you to take your questions, is what we're doing in the education and health sector. We've identified education as the strongest weapon to fight poverty. And so we recognize that if we're going to achieve a 0% poverty headcount rate in the next 4 to 8 years, we must tackle the education, the crisis we have in the education sector frontally, and which is essentially what we have done. We are currently constructing the smart schools across the 260 local governments. 260 wards. We've awarded the contracts for 135. So in 135 wards today, those smart school projects are ongoing. And before the end of next month, we're going to award the balance of the 125 wards. So we're going to have the entire 260 smart school projects going on, and our objective is to ensure that these smart schools are all operational by September 2025. So you might think that we're so enthused about the construction of the infrastructure, but it's far from just the infrastructure. We've identified all the indicators where we're challenged, whether it's the numeracy and the literacy rates, where we have currently about 50%. Our target is that by next year we're going to move that to 100%. Where we have, and what we're doing in the smart school is almost for us like an obsession, because it's beyond the 9 years basic school, which is what is recommended globally to provide a free and mandatory education, basic education for a minimum of 9 years. We have even taken that further. We're going ahead to provide 12 years of compulsory and free education in the education. Because we have included the early child learning in all our smart schools. So the smart schools provide opportunity for us to get our children from age 3 and put them through the pipeline of learning, where we expose them to nursery, to pre-primary 1, pre-primary 2, before they now get to the elementary 1. So, and this again is profound, because the skills we're exposing these kids to are modern skills. So imagine we're coming from a state where we as where teachers hardly have enough aids to write or scribble on the board, to going to a point where they now have to use smart board to teach our kids, where our kids would struggle to find a notebook, and I mean a paper notebook to write on, going from there to giving them a tablet to work with. We've taken the view that our children must be at the epicenter of the news story, of the emerging world, the emerging skills that we need to be able to conquer the world. Our children should be at that epicenter. So in education, in health, we're also doing something radical there. We're building currently 260 primary health, level 2 primary health care centers. And this again will be across the entire 260 wards in Enugu State. We started already awarded the contract of 30, and we're just about to award additional 100. And then before the end of this year, we would be sure to have the entire 260 Type 2 primary health care centers across all our wards. There are quite a lot of interventions we've done in the healthcare sector. We recognize that our maternal mortality rate is inexcusable and unacceptable to us. So what we have also done is to design a program to increase the skilled health workers in Enugu State, so that we're going to have at least 100% coverage before the end of next year. We have currently increased our quota. The nursing college and the nursing schools we have in Enugu State from what used to be 150 to 600. Our objective is that we're going to move that to 3,000 before the end of the year. We're currently constructing new blocks, new classrooms, and new hostels in our various schools of nursing, so that we can have room to take more people and turn out a minimum of 3,000 nurses and midwives at the end of every year. And again, this is going to help us to tackle the issue of brain drain and also provide at least coverage to make sure that our pregnant women have 100% attendance by skilled health personnel. So I'm going to wrap up by largely saying that this is your event. This is largely where we get the opportunity to hear from you, to get the feedback from you on how we have fared, the things we need to work on, the things we need to strengthen. And this is the commitment we made, and we're going. It's not for us just about the symbolism of this event. The feedback we're going to get from you here is going to be taken very seriously. We're going to act on them, because at the end of the day, we are serving you.